Tonight we have a special guest who will chat with Raney on stage. She's a dear friend of Raney's and a friend of the OPC. She's also co-founder and CEO of Rappler and winner of the Nobel Peace Prize for her courageous work in safeguarding freedom of expression. Please welcome to the stage Maria Ressa.
Hi, Maria. Hi, Raney. Okay, you guys may be wondering why we are here, right? When a president or your president decides to attack your news group and file multiple investigations and charges against you, it's fantastic when Frontline comes in and becomes a shield. I mean, what made you decide to do that, Raney?
Well, first of all, I want to just say hello to everyone. My daughter's here, my brothers, my uncle, my aunt, and so many friends and family. And it's a real honor. Thank you. Yeah, they're my rock. I would say I'm also honored to call you a friend. We've had a long journey. And it does
I've been there at many of the main things, including that Academy Awards. We got like dawn. We were in a room together. Anyway,
well, we're so close now, but if we go back, the first time I saw Maria Ressa was because of James Jacoby. It was in an edit room, and she was telling us about what it was like to live in the Philippines during the era where Facebook was really emerging. And I really started to pay attention to what was actually happening to you, to your colleagues at Rappler. And so when 1,000 Cuts came, the film by Ramona Diaz, I thought to myself, I have to do it. By the way, it premiered at Sundance, and I wasn't the likely broadcaster for it because we really at that time weren't doing big feature films, but I made the plea that we would be the right partner, and I was right, and we worked together, and we were able to release it into the Philippines, which was a really important act that we did.
but a particular moment, right? And it's something that a commercial documentary company may not have done. You released it not on PBS, not on Frontline, right?
Well, I mean, PBS is interesting. First of all, PBS and GBH is in the house. I want to just say hi, my Frontline colleagues. You guys are the best that we could ask for. So I want to just say that, PBS broadcasts in the United States and streams here too. At the time when we had 1,000 Cuts, which again was a big film about your plight, we did not have distribution in the Philippines. And so it was really bothering me that all of you and your colleagues in the Philippines couldn't just show people in the Philippines what was happening with President Duterte at the time. And so it was a middle of the night idea I had that we should release it on YouTube in the Philippines. It sounds like an obvious idea now, but years ago, we weren't thinking like that. And what's incredible is we released it into the Philippines, and we've done that time and time again where we've realized that the films that we make about the Philippines, about Venezuela, about El Salvador recently, we release these films directly into the countries for the people that also need to see them. We all need to see them too. And remember, we work with so many local journalists, and I saw that C.J. Chivers talked about that too, that I want the journalists in these countries to see their work. And that's how we came up with that idea.
But no Filipino broadcaster or journalist wanted to touch it.
Well, and that's why is that there was no broadcaster in the Philippines who wanted to broadcast
i.e. we were
it.
afraid.
Right, and and I'm sorry for that. And so we realized that people in the Philippines wouldn't see it unless we released it. And that model actually opened up a door, and you all would be maybe surprised that 60% of our streaming audience is now global. So Frontline is, yes, a US broadcaster. We are, and we're big here too, but this is a global film series, journalism organization now, and that's what there's so much hunger around the globe now for this type of factual reporting that I think this is just the beginning for all of us.
But I think the other part that was fascinating is how much of a shield that documentary became for me and for Rappler, because at the time you released it was Independence Day in the Philippines, right? You just decided.
I didn't know that, by the way. She told me that after.
But
Like, I wouldn't know that, but now I know.
So, shield, right? But let me,
thank
another weird time that we had was many instances we've sat around tables where we were sometimes the only two women at a table, and you tended to be the youngest and tended to be the most powerful. But at a time, as a woman leader in news and as a young woman leader, what does this mean for you?
Well, this is a lifetime achievement, so I guess I'm not so young anymore.
Still, though. Young.
Young-ish still. You know, I think part of it is I never thought I wouldn't be at the table. So I'm not thinking in those scenarios about the fact that you and I are the only women there. I notice it. But I think in those scenarios, I assume that I can have a voice. I always have. I have to say I have 5 brothers and a sister. I have a very big, rich, wonderfully complex family across the country. And so I think I grew up navigating a lot of family, wonderful dynamics. And my brothers are incredible. My sister, I have really powerful women role models in my life. My mother is remarkable. And I would also say my grandmother, Dorothy Aronson, who I love to this. I will not talk about her because I'll cry. I always told my Uncle Stephen I'll not talk about her on stage often because she was really an incredible role model. So I do have role models in my life. And I have to also say that GBH and PBS are run by women, Paula Kerger, Susan Goldberg. And so there are a lot of really powerful women that surround me. And, the other thing I'll say is that Frontline, once upon a time, did have many male leaders, and David Fanning, our founder, and there was always a place for me at the table. And so that's why I assume I can have a voice,
So I'm gonna pick up again, right, and pull the strand of Raney. At a time when identity politics, when social media pushes you to only assume one identity, as a blonde woman with many identities who's lived in many parts of the world, how do you pull this together?
Yeah, that's a very hard to answer in 3 minutes.
I know, we only have 10 minutes with you.
I would say, I'm a person who came from rural America. I always think hard. I lived all over the world. I've reported from around the world. That I'm always thinking about the people who don't have access to the work that we do and the privilege of what we do. And I always come back to the fact that it's a privilege to be able to publish and produce and actually have the ability to do thoughtful, long-form, investigative journalism. That is a privilege. We were talking earlier today that, every single day, news organizations are closing in the United States and globally.
I'll give you a stat. This is from last year. In America, last year, every week, at least 2 news organizations shut down.
Yeah.
A minimum of 2.
So for me, this is a privilege, and it's actually a calling, and our mission is to do nuanced, reported work. We wouldn't be Frontline otherwise. And so I think everybody who works at Frontline, there's a lot of Frontline people here, you're nodding, right? We work really hard to do nuanced work, that we have to do that. That's what our role is. We can contextualize what we're seeing. We're not rushing after the headlines, and I really respect those of you who do. We need you too. But for our special little secret sauce, we're trying to contextualize our work.
So in contextualizing your work, most of other news organizations are in this, we're jumping off a cliff between big tech, choking traffic to news websites, generative AI search, killing traffic, like a drop of up to 75% in some parts of the world, right? A coming market failure, that means public broadcasting could be last man, last woman standing. What does that mean?
I hope not. I hope we're all here together year after year. That's what I hope. Yeah, right? Okay, let's just have one moment. We're gonna be here. My father would always say, you have to have hope. I think about him when I think about these sort of dire situations, a doctor on the front lines during the AIDS crisis, for example, talking to us about how do you maintain hope when we're up against this big challenge. I would say that for us at Frontline and all of us, that the most important thing we can do is to make sure we do our jobs well. And this is the most important thing all day long at Frontline we're trying to do, is to just truly use our skill. We have worked on these skills, and to publish as honestly, as factually, as fairly as possible, and also to challenge our own biases, to really think hard about where we're coming from. The other thing is I do feel like we hold a special place right now in public broadcasting, because we do allow for people to see our work in front of paywalls for the news and current affairs part of the public television ecosystem. People like Jonathan Barsley and others, like, we really believe that we need to have this work available for all. And now that is increasingly global, which is really exciting to someone, for me, like me, I just love the idea of a global community that can see and appreciate the same journalism, the same facts, you know? If some of us can share those facts, we do still have hope.
The dangers of journalism now, right?
It's very serious.
It's actually, CPJ points out that the number of journalists killed this year, the majority in Gaza, goes all the way back to the Civil War, the World Wars, everything all the way up, right? So but it's not just the state, it's also the audiences that we have. How do you navigate appealing to different generations?
Oh, well, I mean, we're fortunate that young people love documentary films. I mean, I don't know if a lot of young people just love it. We have a ton of people who work for us who are brave and young and out in the world, and they're gathering cinematic journalism. You know, we call it cinematic journalism because we're trying to tell a story visually, and we're there as a record, but we're also there as filmmakers, and I think that combination is very helpful for young people and for all generations. And I frankly love all generations, so we also do a lot of short form now. We see we're all doing this now, and I think there is a place for short form, medium form, and long form, but just looking out for what is the right form for the story that you're telling.
And last question, Raney. I mean, we saw all the different types of documentaries that Frontline has done, the different places you've been to. Courage. When we first started talking, you asked me what that is, right? But now that chilling effect we had in the Philippines, I called it Siberia. It's here. How do you handle this? How do you define courage? Hi, American journalists.
I've asked her this question many times, and also how does she maintain hope? So I have courage because I have reporters every single day. Any editor will say this, that I have reporters like the two incredible filmmakers who are winning tonight, James Jacoby, so many people around the globe who are literally risking their lives to gather the stories that you saw in that reel, people like Mstislav Shernov, so many people, and it's a privilege from my perspective to be able to do the best I can to protect them, to be smart, to be a good editor, to be a thoughtful, responsible editor. But my reporters and filmmakers give me courage, and you all do as well. Congratulations.
Thank you. Raney Aronson-Rath, thank you.